What's going on, everybody? This is the Alex Rojas Show. I am your host, Alex Rojas. My shirt's kind of dirty. I was walking my dog, and he got into the dirt a little bit and got it on my shirt. This is why I shouldn't wear white. Anyways, we're going to talk about what happened in the regionals, who we got playing in the super regionals. Holy shit. I mean, it was a bad weekend to be a national seed. It was a great weekend to be a mid-major school. I mean, the mid-majors showed up. The mid-majors dominated. I have a couple reasons as to why I believe that, but we're going to talk about my predictions, what I got right, what I got wrong. I was 7 for 16. Let me double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to go piece by piece. Okay, I thought UCLA was going to win that regional. They went 1 and 2. They can't beat St. Mary's. Like, what is that? And then St. Mary's gets lambasted by Cal Poly. And, I mean, it's baseball. What are you going to do? Some guys line up better with others. Some teams can beat other teams, but they can't beat some teams. Isn't that crazy? Like, if I was John Savage, I would put St. Mary's on my schedule for a series next year, and I would tell my team, hey, if we don't beat these guys by a combined 45 runs in 3 games, everybody is running for an hour straight or longer on Monday. That's what I would say. All right. The 2 seed Georgia Tech, oh my God, they lost in the final. They were looking great. And then Oklahoma said, hold my Sooner, bro. And they ran away with it. Now, I don't think James Ramsey, who is a first-year coach at Georgia Tech, who was ACC Coach of the Year. He led his team to a 51-10 record. Like, that's crazy. And he did great, I thought. But he couldn't close it out. And this is what, like, I personally believe. When you're in these postseasons, I'm not saying you got to ride a guy until he's at 130 pitches. But they had a starter, gave up 3. They brought in this other kid named Mason Patel. Mason Patel has been there for 71 appearances at Georgia Tech, right? So this guy has been developing. He's not a transfer portal guy. He's a guy that you know. He's a guy that's a Georgia Tech guy, and he's a senior. He's been there. They take him out in the 8th inning. Coming out into the 9th is one of their best pitchers. I think it was actually their Friday night starter, maybe their closer. That guy blows the lead. Then the next inning that they lose. Personally, I would have ran Mason Patel out there for the 9th and would have said, hey, you've got the inning, but if a guy reaches base, I'm going to pull you. That's what I would have done. Unless he gets the 2 outs, hey, we'll give it a shot here. But that's what I would have done. The dude was cruising. He looked awesome. He gave up 2 runs in 7 innings. The dude was phenomenal. And I thought he did great. Hats off to Mason Patel. I don't know if he's going to be a big leaguer or a professional baseball player, but that was super impressive. Then we go to Georgia. The Dogs did what I figured they were going to do. They have one of the best offenses in the nation. Georgia Tech does too. Georgia Tech's offense, it's insane. And they just couldn't close it out. UGA, the only thing to talk about is Trey Phelps getting ejected. Like, dude goes Yahtzee, turns to the away dugout, starts Jack John, and he says what had happened was, I was talking to my mom and dad above their dugout, if that's the case or if not, Trey Phelps is an extremely talented player. I love Flash, but there's a certain point where it's like, hey, I get that you're having fun, but you got to think about how your decisions impact us. So now he doesn't get to play game 1 of the Super Regional. And their manager also got ejected. He's protecting his player. But at the same time, you have to have an understanding of how important your role is in the game. Same thing with Landon Hairston, right? And we'll talk about that later. Auburn almost goes down to Milwaukee in their regional. Milwaukee played really good baseball this weekend, and Auburn was able to win yesterday. I don't expect Auburn to be walking away super healthy, and we'll talk about that in the post-conferences from a couple of coaches. But Auburn did what they were supposed to do. UNC, did what they were supposed to do. They won that regional. So I had, in the first 5 regionals, I had all the 1 seeds winning, only 3 won. The number 1 and the number 2 overall seed lost. The number 1 overall seed didn't even make it to the regional final. Crazy. Okay, so the 6th seed was Texas. I had UCSB winning that regional because I was thinking, like, if this can happen and this can happen, they have one of the best pitching staffs in the nation, honestly. And they got to the regional final, got to a Monday game, I believe. No, I think they lost on Sunday. Texas beat them. Texas didn't lose a game. Texas looked awesome. Texas has the most professional coaching staff in the country. Troy Tulowitzki, former All-Star, former MVP, I think, at least a candidate. They got their pitching coach who followed Jim Schlossnagle from Texas A&M, who used to be the pitching coach for the Mariners, the big league club, not a minor league club. So they've got a lot of talent in the coaching staff, so they're staying pretty level-headed. Then we had Oklahoma State winning the I don't even know what regional that was. I'm trying to think where they were. Oh, they were in Bama. Bama won that regional. Okay, I had Oklahoma State winning that regional. Bama ended up winning it. And, I picked OK State because they are historically a great baseball club. And I just figured that they've got enough talent. They're a 2 seed. They're not, like, underseeded by a lot, but Bama Roll Tide. Dude, the Gators. Did y'all see what Troy did to the Gators? Like, University of Troy, out of the Sun Belt, from Alabama, beat the brakes off of the Gators yesterday. 10-2 was the final. Like, okay, in some of these regionals, we'll talk about this and pause. Did you guys see some of the football scores that were going up there? Like 14-2, 22 runs scored by Georgia Tech in their Friday night opener. Like, the amount of football scores that happened were insane. Now, to go back to the UCSB regional, I said Holy Cross was going to get the brakes beat off them. They did. They gave up 34 runs, or 33 runs, excuse me, maybe 34, in 2 games. And I said, why are they in it? They have a losing record. There were teams that were left out that could have been so much better than that team. Like a Mercer. Dude, how did Mercer not make the tournament? Like, they were one of the best offenses in the country, hands down, in a variety of categories: stolen bases, batting average, home runs, RBIs, OPS, like one of the best in the country. Didn't even make the stinking tournament. Crazy to me. But we're going to put a team who is an under 30 win team, not even 500. Now, I will give Milwaukee credit because they started off the season like, I think it was like 5-15, and they only had 27 losses on the season, and they went like 25-27. So, yeah, you won a lot of games, right? And you won your conference. But still, and they proved me wrong. They got to the final, right? But there's some of these teams where it's like, you got to be kidding me, like, that this team made it. It was just ridiculous. So, Southern Miss, I had them winning that regional in Hattiesburg, their regional. I can't believe that they didn't win that. Little Rock. It was a mid-major final. It was and the Sun Belt is a mid-major, but dude, they had 5 teams in the regional. I mean, the Sun Belt has been really good every year for the past 5 or 6 years. Very historically dominant conference in terms of sports, but always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And, I mean, you can make an argument that the Sun Belt should be the Power 5. They should be in that mix, but schools are a little small. Money isn't there. TV contracts aren't there, but they are a very good baseball team. They've got some top round draft picks on that team. And they lost. They didn't even make it to the regional final. It was Little Rock versus, who was the other team? I can't think off the top of my head. But it was a mid-major final. Little Rock ended up winning that. Incredible. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 host teams so far that lost. Okay, and it keeps going. So Coastal Carolina, I had them winning that. They didn't even make it to the final. It was St. John's of New York. Shout out to the Johnnies, the Red Storm, and Florida State. This was a crazy game. This was a crazy regional. They had tons of adversity with rain. They had tons of issues in terms of like when gameplay was going on with the rain, and then when they stopped gameplay, there was some strategery that was happening with, we're going to bring the tarp on the field, but we're already playing in the rain. You have Doppler. You know the rain's coming. This seems strategic, not necessarily it seemed like a planned reaction, not just an organic reaction. It seemed very odd when you have one of the best pitchers in the country for Coastal Carolina, who is throwing well, randomly gets shut down because, hey, we got to bring the tarp on the field. Now he can't come back out. And Coastal, I mean, if I had known this, I probably would have picked them to win. But, I mean, they were riddled with injuries this year. I think they said 5 of their 8 best pitchers were hurt this year. So they weren't who they historically are. And, again, we'll talk about what Coach Schall said about the regional experience when he was there. But St. John's beat Florida State. A 4 seed. Beat Florida State. Florida State had to win 2 on a Monday because of all the crazy weather that was happening down there. And St. John's, they moved on to the Super Regional. Incredible stuff. And I have thoughts as to why these mid-majors did so well this year. Then we go to Oregon. We had Oregon winning that. I had Oregon winning that. They didn't lose a game. They did phenomenal. I think the Ducks are very legit, but now they have to go back to Texas, I think for the 3rd year in a row, not University of Texas at Austin, but a Texas school for a Super Regional for the 3rd year in a row. We'll see. I'll talk about my predictions here. Incredible stuff, okay? I was a little upset that Oregon State was in that regional with Washington State as well. I'm like, why are we diminishing the Pac-12's ability? Like, you put Oregon State in any regional, they're getting to the final, which they did, right? Now, they had to beat Oregon twice. Unfortunately, they didn't because they lost to Washington State in game 1, whatever. But I'm just saying Oregon State could have gone to any regional in the country and probably made that final. They were 44-14 on the year after the end of the regionals. Phenomenal team. Got to have a conference you want a regional, which I think is silly because there's some of these teams that they didn't even deserve to be in it. Then, Texas A&M's regional, College Station. I had USC winning. I know that they are a very good baseball team. And yes, they won. Their offense woke up. They scored like 59 or 60 runs in the last 4 games of the regional, which is bananas. And phenomenal baseball team. What can you say about them? One of the best players in the country, if not the best player in the country, Mason Edwards, will have the ball. And I think they can actually do a really good job against who they're playing in the regional. Okay, Super Regional, excuse me. I had ASU winning. Now, they got to the final, and they lost to the champion twice of that regional. Ole Miss, dude, it's really hard to pick against Ole Miss. They are one of the best teams in the country every single year. Mike Bianco, incredible baseball coach. He's been at Ole Miss for almost the entire length of the century of the 2000s. I think he's been there for 22 or 23 years. It's 2026. He's won a natty in 2022. I mean, they are a studly team. They've got a good pitching staff. They throw hard. They can compete. ASU played 24 innings against them, a 10-inning game and a 14-inning game, lost by walk-off both times. Landon Harrison gets ejected in the game against, I believe it was Nebraska. And, you know, you get suspended for 2 games, or the game after the game you're ejected, so he couldn't play in the final. Dude, ASU came out hot. They scored early, and then they couldn't hold them. Their pitching staff wasn't enough. It's not that they don't have a good pitching staff. It's just you play a 14-inning marathon game, guys are starting to get tired. You've seen guys already that are your relievers. It was just a hard game for them to win. Then, here was my lottery pick, okay? So I had University of Louisiana winning that Starkville Regional for Mississippi State. Was it a shot in the dark? Absolutely. But Mississippi State, Brian Johnson, he was a coach at Virginia. He's a great coach. Mississippi State, every single year, they're an Omaha-type team. You can't count them out. And that's what they did. But Louisiana took them to a Monday, another Sun Belt school. So you've got University of Louisiana, Southern Miss. We had Troy. We had, who was the other team I'm leaving out? But there were 5 Coastal, sorry. There's one other Sun Belt team that I'm missing out in this. There were 5 Sun Belt teams that made out of the 64 teams. Now, granted, you got the ACC schools, you got the SEC schools, you got the Big 12, you got the Big 10, but 5 schools from that conference and 1 hosted a regional, and I think 2 or 3 made it to the final. Like, that's incredible. It's incredible stuff. Starkville, of course, Hale State, they're incredible. And then the 2 that I thought were some of the hardest regionals to win, Kansas doesn't need to play on a Monday. They go 3-0. Incredible stuff in Lawrence. That KU team looks really good. And then you've got West Virginia, Mountain Mama. Okay, so we're going to start with the highlights of the coolest thing that I saw this weekend, besides what happened. And again, we'll talk about some of the highlights here in a second. We'll start with this. West Virginia had a guy throw 122 pitches on a Friday, okay? Comes back on Monday. Maybe it was Saturday. Comes back on Monday. Just threw 122 pitches, right? And he's got to close out the last inning so they can take home the dub. In the bottom of the 9th inning, the bottom of the 10th, where they walked off. Kentucky also played an incredible regional. Like, love the Kentucky Wildcats. They were in Omaha 2 years ago. First pitch this guy throws out of the bullpen. Remember, he threw 122 pitches like 2 or 3 days ago. 97. Like, what? That's the great. Who are you, Madison Bumgarner? Like, that's wild. And West Virginia wins by walk-off fashion. And it was a really great regional. I'm really happy for West Virginia. Okay, some of the highlights, and we'll talk about the super regionals. So, number 1, we'll talk about my highlight in each one of these regionals. UCLA, best team in the country, can't get it done. St. Mary's walks it off against the best team in the country. Now, this is where I thought they got out-coached. Easton Hawk, best closer in the country, okay, comes in to relieve a guy who was visibly confident. Visibly confident. He got into a little bit of trouble, and so they go to their guy, hey, we're going to bring in Easton Hawk. Easton Hawk can't close it out. He loses the game for him. Now, this is where I think, again, we go back to the Mason Patel thing at GT. Dude, you got to let a guy go. Sometimes you just got to let a guy go. And this guy was visibly just feeling it on the mound. I don't know why we're going to take this guy out. I have no idea why. Sometimes coaches get out-coached by over-coaching. That's just a thing. My dad calls it, they out-stupided themselves. Like, the other team might be doing stupid stuff, but you did something stupid that was way stupider than what they did. All right? So they out-stupided themselves. Then we've got Georgia Tech. Okay, the highlight was, this was a little bit of a, Oklahoma, the guy who walked it off, Tacky, whatever his name is. It's like hockey with a T. Fouls the ball off his boys. Bounces off the dirt, comes back up, hits him between the legs, goes down. You see the first baseman laughing, okay? 3 innings later, this dude goes 109 on a full count over the center field wall. Absolutely crushed. He knew it. Everybody knew it. Oklahoma's going to the Super Regionals. That was an incredible moment. UGA, the Trey Phelps ejection, that was pretty wild. I thought UGA played really well. They got the Triple Crown winner, I believe, in the country with Daniel Jackson, he's a really good baseball player. Hope he can do it at the next level. Be honest, I didn't watch the Auburn Regional, but I will say the highlight was the football score of 17-14 that Auburn had to win over NC State. Like 17-14? What? 31 runs? That's crazy. So that was pretty wild. I did not watch the UNC Regional a whole lot, but I will say the highlight was that first game. East Carolina versus Tennessee was an incredible matchup. Tennessee went 0-2 in the regional. Wow. I didn't really watch Texas a whole lot, but I will say the highlight is what I already talked about, which was why was Holy Cross in the tournament? They gave up 33 or 34 runs in 2 games. You got to be telling me that Mercer wouldn't have been a better 4 seed than that. You put them in a 4 seed. Do it. Right? But don't put in teams that have a losing record just because they won their conference. Because there are teams that weren't in that conference that are much better teams. And again, St. Mary's kind of proved that. I don't think they won the WCC, but guess what? They just beat the number 1 team in the country twice out of 2 times. So, and then they get their boats raced by Cal Poly, right? It doesn't make sense, but baseball's baseball. Then we've got Oklahoma State and Alabama. I didn't watch that, actually, a single inning of that regional, but I will say Roll Tide. I mean, I think that's the highlight is Alabama is starting to prove that they are a baseball school as much as they are basketball and football, which puts them in a very rare category of teams that are always good at everything. Florida, dude, Troy, that's the highlight. Just Troy went down there and they said, hold my sword, bro. Here we go. Absolutely smacked Florida 2 games in a row. I think they scored 20-something runs in 2 games in a row against Florida. I thought Florida was going to Omaha, straight up. I had them borderline winning the whole damn thing. They looked great offensively, defensively, pitching-wise. You got Kevin O'Sullivan, phenomenal baseball coach. You're going to be a super regional no matter what because you're an 8 seed. All you got to do is win the regional, and then you're staying at home cooking. Troy was not having it. Sun Belt for the win. Dude, Southern Mississippi. Again, the highlight is the 4 seed wins the regional, okay? 4 seeds aren't supposed to win regionals. It's just, they're not. They're supposed to be there. Hey, how you doing? Here, take your free breakfast. Here's this, here's that. Can't believe that. Just, I cannot believe it. Okay, so I've got a couple highlights from the Tallahassee Regional. Coach Schall or Coach Schnall, Coastal Carolina coach, he had a great post-game press conference. And also, so did Auburn. I forget what his coach's name is, but I less agree with what he said because a part of me could just answer what he said a little bit bluntly, but he's not really listening to me. This is just me voicing my opinion. Coastal had to deal with a lot of adversity. And I think the best way to think about it is we're always talking about how these are student athletes. They are kids, okay? They are going to class. They're out of school, most of them right now. I think all of them, actually. And we're supposed to be treating them with a certain level of safety and respect, okay? Coach Schall or Coach Schnall, the Coastal coach, he was talking about how, we talk about student-athlete wellness and all this other stuff. He goes, my boys were eating dinner at 3 a.m. Then they had to be back at the ball field at 11. Where's the student-athlete wellness in that? And I entirely agree. Like, you mismanaged it. And that's what he said. He said, utterly mismanaged. I could not agree more. It was utterly mismanaged from the tarp being pulled on. You got one of the best pitchers in the country is on the mound, then randomly you're just going to stop him. I mean, eating breakfast at 3 in the morning for an 11 a.m. game, like that is ridiculous. Now, granted, all these games have to be done by Monday. I totally get that. But you, as a regional, Florida State, you are a host. It's your job to take care of all 4 teams. The athletic director has to do a better job. The head coach of Florida State has to do a much better job. And I do not give any accountability to a road team there. They are not accountable. They're accountable for showing up, putting on a show for the fans, and trying to win that regional. Okay? I think that is the most important thing is student-athlete wellness. Now, in a positive sense, I think my favorite thing that I saw was the St. John's pitcher, and I've seen this in person. I've been a catcher when this happens, and I've seen this multiple times on TV. I've seen it on Instagram and YouTube. Pitcher for St. John's comes out of the bullpen. They're in Florida. It's June 1st. It's definitely not cold. It may not be the hottest it's going to be in Florida, but it's warm. It's humid. They're from New York. It's a totally different feel. The dude is mid-at-bat, and he steps off the mound and just loses it on the mound. And I get it. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, wow, he's sick. People out of the baseball realm don't understand what savage animals guys in the bullpen are, right? They're easily doing 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine every day. That's on average. They can go above, they can go below, but on average, they are slamming C4s, Ghost energy drinks, Red Bulls. It doesn't matter. They are slamming energy drinks, and sometimes they don't eat. Sometimes these guys are out there, and I'm not condoning this, but I'm just saying it's a thing. They might be chewing tobacco. They might be running pouches. They might be doing a whole heck of a lot of stuff, right? I know we're talking about student-athlete wellness, but some of these guys are adults, and they're allowed to do some of these things. I know the NCAA doesn't condone it, right? I don't think it's a agreed-upon substance, but it's probably what's happening. I've played college baseball. The bullpen starts losing their mind. Like, they pan to the bullpen. The bullpen's like, yeah! Because he was definitely in the bullpen before that going, guys, I think I'm going to throw up. And they're like, do it on the field. Like, just go do it. Like, deal with it. because he wasn't throwing a bullpen in the bullpen, going like, "Oh yeah, I feel pretty good." He was definitely like, "Guys, I'm definitely gonna throw up," and then he goes out there, yeah, loses it. Even the announcer goes, "Puke and rally, baby," and he gets out of the inning without giving up a run. Love that. That was the highlight of that regional. Oregon State. Again, I didn't watch that regional. It was on ESPN Plus, and I just didn't have time to go through that. The USC regional at Texas A&M, dude. The highlight was, I'm going to give it one swing. Augie Lopez last night hit a ball. I don't think it's landed yet. He hit a ball a little bit out in front, and it was down. And he goes Ken Griffey Jr. type swing on it. Smokes this ball. Probably 105, 106 off the bat. I've seen harder, right? I've seen farther. But the moment when he hit it, it was a 3-run home run. Puts USC up 5-1. I believe they won 7-2. It was just such a monumental moment to capitalize upon the hosting team's bullpen, and it put on a giant exclamation point on their offense that weekend. Like, incredible offense. Like, wow. Because we know USC can pitch, but if their offense plays like this in their super regional, dude, who knows? Dude, the highlight was Ole Miss Arizona State's first game on a Friday, went 14 innings. What? First game of the regional, and I got to listen to KP, Kyle Peterson, and Carl Ravitch for 4 hours, and they're playing at 1 in the morning, and then the winning team got to rest. Losing team has to again turn it around, student athlete wellness. Probably had to go eat dinner 2:30 in the morning. Then they had to go to bed probably around 3. Then they had to be at the ballpark about 12 o'clock. Right, so we got to find a way to answer back, respond correctly. And again, with the Auburn coach, he talked about how, he's got a guy doing this on a Friday, throwing this many pitches. He's got to come back today. That's baseball. Like, you're trying to win a game 7. Big leaguers do that. Now, I'm not saying that just because big leaguers do it, a college kid has to do it. What I'm saying is, don't lose the first game. And I hate saying that because it seems very dismissive. It seems disingenuous as a guy who is a coach of young athletes, wants them to be healthy. But, dude, you can't lose that first game. Because then you got to play and win 4 games. It's hard. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, right? But it is a hard road if that's the one that you set for your team. Because the same thing, you know how many other guys probably pitched 2 or 3 times this weekend? The dude from West Virginia? I didn't hear them complaining, right? I'm not saying that they don't have complaints, but I'm saying, don't lose that first game. Then we go to the Starkville Regional. I think the highlight was, again, I'm a homer a little bit. I didn't go to University of Louisiana. I just love that head coach, Matt Deggs. I think he's awesome. I think what he's done for that program, what he does at a lot of programs is phenomenal. University of Louisiana getting to a Monday after losing game 1 and then getting to a Monday elimination game. Now, didn't go great. They lost by about 6, maybe 8 runs. It happens, right? But, dude, that's another Sun Belt team that's in a regional final. That's incredible. And they were the only team from Louisiana, which means Louisiana State is in that mix, that made a regional. So pretty cool stuff. I think the highlight from the Lawrence Regional with Kansas was, dude, Kansas goes 3-0. They win 3 straight games. They don't have an issue. They beat Arkansas, who borderline could have been a host of a regional, top 16. They were probably the 17th overall seed in the whole thing, right? KU said, hold my rock chalk, bro. And then highlight West Virginia was that dude coming out after 122 pitches. First pitch, 97. I love West Virginia. Now, we're going to talk about the predictions here. I got my red Sharpie. Boom. You can see this was, I had to cross guys out. It was horrific, right? So, we're going to predict winners. I'm going to circle the winner, what I think. So, first regional, Morgantown, West Virginia. I am taking the Mountaineers. I love what they're doing in that program. Second straight year of a super regional. They look phenomenal. And I love Cal Poly. That was my dream school growing up, right? I've got kids that I communicate with, kids that I've coached that go to Cal Poly. I love Cal Poly. I spent 2 years down in San Luis Obispo at a junior college down there. Don't get it twisted. I love the Mustangs, but West Virginia looks pretty good. I didn't see Cal Poly play a single inning. I will say that. So I don't know what they got cooking, but they just won the toughest regional. But they did not have to play UCLA. Not even an inning. They played St. Mary's twice, and they played Virginia Tech, excuse me. So I'm going to take West Virginia. But, hey, Cal Poly, don't sleep on them, okay? But they didn't have to play UCLA. Then we've got Oklahoma versus Kansas in a Big 12 matchup. But it's not a Big 12 because Oklahoma's in the SEC. I'm going to say Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I think what they are doing right now is the best that they have ever looked. And, I mean, their baseball program has never been this way. I don't think they've been to a College World Series since, like, the 70s, if ever. No, 1993 or something like that. Yeah, 1993 or 1994. They look really good. As a team, they look great. They're really got a lot of momentum. They won the Big 12 tournament, beating West Virginia in the Big 12 tournament in the final. And then, I mean, going 3-0 in a regional, right? That's hard to do, especially with the teams that are in that regional. Then we've got the mid-major super regional. Now, if Cal Poly wins, and then we know a mid-major is going to win here, and then if St. John's can win, I've never seen 3 mid-majors in a College World Series. Incredible stuff. So, Little Rock, Troy, I'm Sunbelt biased. I'm going to take Troy. They're in Troy. I think Troy is like an hour away from Tuscaloosa, maybe 2 hours away. But I've got the Trojans from Troy. I think they are awesome. Dude, Little Rock almost beat LSU in the regional last year. They finally had a super regional. That's a program. Like, you can just call it now. Dude, you're a program now. Like, that's super legit. Alabama and St. John's. St. John's did not look phased by playing Florida State. Not even a little bit. They won 3 straight Florida State. They didn't lose a game. I thought that's what Coastal was going to do. St. John's didn't lose a single game out of the Big East where they were playing with snow on the ground in the beginning of the year. These guys are tough. Now, you are playing a very stacked Alabama team led by Justin LeBron. They've got a great ace. It's like Frey or something like that. Just a tough pick. My heart is saying St. John's. My brain is saying Alabama. We're going to flip a coin. Imaginary coin. Heads St. John's, tails Alabama. We're going heads. St. John's. The Johnnies. All right. We've got probably the most significant super regional, in my opinion. You've got USC. Could have been a regional host. If they won the Big Ten, they would have been a regional host. Not a regional host. Just beat a very good Texas A&M team against UNC. UNC is very well coached. This is going to be a coach's matchup. Who can make better decisions or at least the least amount of bad decisions? I think USC is going to win that. I think USC is an Omaha team. Right when I saw them, like this, what'd they go again? I talked about in the last podcast, like 24, 25-0. Incredible stuff. Now, these last 3, we've got, just insane matchups here. So we've got Oregon versus Texas. We've got Ole Miss versus Auburn. And we've got University of Georgia versus Mississippi State. So how many SEC teams are there left? We got 1, we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, the SEC is good. They're proving it. They're winning regionals, right? But I think this is the year that Oregon finally beats the SEC. I think Oregon is very good. They almost beat UCLA so many times, but UCLA they were the best team in the country. Okay, I'm taking the Ducks. Quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth. So I've got 3 road teams and 3 home teams. All right? Now, like I said earlier in the podcast, I do not bet against Mike Bianco. I do not bet against Ole Miss. This is an SEC regular season series. I don't know who won the series matchup, but it doesn't matter. We're in the postseason. I've got Ole Miss They look incredible right now. They just played again. Arizona State. They were a 3 seed, best 3 seed in the whole regional tournament. Probably shouldn't have been a 3 seed. They had like a top 5, top 6 offense in the country. Now we got University of Georgia versus Mississippi State. They're at Georgia. Georgia's good. Georgia is very good, but so is Mississippi State. Okay, can't hate on Hail State. And I was talking about it to myself when I was driving to an A's game recently on Saturday. If I could play anywhere in the country, if they said, hey, Alex, you're 18 years old, you just graduated from Amador Valley High School, you got a full ride to every school in the country, there'd be 3 hats on my desk. It would be Ole Miss. It would be UCLA. Love the Bruins. I think their colors are sick. And Mississippi State. Something about Mississippi. I mean, Mississippi State, it's called Stark Vegas, okay? And then you got Ole Miss. You're hitting a bomb into right field. They're throwing whatever in their red Solo cups in the air. It's an electric environment. I'm going to take Hail State, Mississippi State, the Bulldogs. So here is my field for Omaha starting next weekend, not this weekend. We got the Mountaineers of West Virginia. We've got Kansas. We've got Troy. We've got St. John's. We've got USC. We've got Oregon. We've got Ole Miss, and we've got Mississippi State. That's who I think is going to win these regionals. And I think that it is very important that college baseball continues down what they're doing. I think this is awesome. We're guaranteed to have 1 mid-major team in the College World Series. Now, this is the last thing that I'm going to say. For the first time since 1999, which I do believe in this regional bracket to super regional to College World Series format came out, all 8 teams that were in last year's College World Series are not in the College World Series. All 8. That is incredible. That is certifiably insane that all 8 teams are gone. It's phenomenal. Now, I said that was the last thing. Here's the last thing. I think, and I've said this to the owner of the business that I work at, I've said this to our strength coach, I said this to my dad. I think that what we are seeing with these mid-majors doing really well in regionals has less to do with these other teams are overrated. I think it has more to do with what Coach Dave Van Horn said in his press conference after they lost to Kansas. He said, we're going to hit the transfer portal really heavy, which is new to me because I'm used to taking a freshman, developing him for 2 years, and he's a stud his junior and his senior year. And I think that's the issue. I think what's happening is these guys are going to get players. And instead of developing guys, they're going to get players. And I'm not saying that they don't know their players, and I'm not saying these guys are good players. But there is a big difference between home cooking versus going to your friend's house. Your friend's mom could have the best cooking in the world. But there is something about you've had your mom's casserole your whole life. That's the best casserole you're ever going to have. Why? Because it's your mom. And I think what I'm saying with that is these Cal Polys, these Troys, these St. John's, the University of Louisiana type schools, right? The teams that are getting to the regional final, and they're eliminating these other teams. They're getting JUCO transfers. And those JUCO transfers are hungry. So instead of them going to a D1 school, which this guy's already been there, he's here realistically for the money. He's chasing a championship. The other kids are chasing opportunity. And I think chasing opportunity will always prevail in a dogfight. Because when the mud starts getting thrown, you want dogs. You don't want guys that are there because I'm here because I think we're going to win a ring because I'm here now. I'm important. You want guys that have been there, done that, and they go, no, that's not how we do things here. Like I was talking about this with our strength coach. There is a value to 2 types of leaders. The first leader grabs you by your shirt and says, that's not how we do things here. Pick your shit up, hustle, play hard. We don't do it that way here. That's a senior leader. You need those. You can't have a senior leader that transfers in. You can't. You got to have a guy who's been there for 4 years because the coaching staff has his back. His peers have his back. and he creates an atmosphere of accountability. And the second type of leader is the on-the-field leader, who is that dude. But he doesn't have to be here. He doesn't have to grab you by this. He just shows up and he plays phenomenally every single day. And I think that's what we're seeing with some of these smaller schools that are ending up winning. I think they have more leadership. Guys who have been there, guys who love each other. They've been there for 2 or 3, 4 years together. They are not going out. They're going to play hard. And I'm not saying like your Georgia Techs, your UCLAs, your University of Floridas, like those type of schools, they are good. They have talent. They have raised guys. But there is a camaraderie that comes in baseball that you can't beat guys with just talent. There is something about being on a baseball field and playing for your boys that you know every single day. You see them every single day. You hang out every single day. It's a blue-collar sport. That's the reason why stuff like this can happen, right? Because we always talk about how upsets happen. Like, people still talk about Appalachian State beating Michigan. That was in, what, 08? It hasn't happened again. People still talk about Stanford beating USC. That happened in, what, 09? It was a long time ago. But that's why it's so hard to upset people in football, because talent does prevail. I'm not saying that it always does, but generally it does. We're stronger, we're bigger, we're faster. In baseball, that doesn't matter. Florida State was bigger, faster, stronger than St. John's. They lost. UCLA was bigger, faster, stronger than any team in the country. They lost. Who else lost? Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has debatably the best player in the country offensively in Drew Burress. They lost. They've got this guy named Jordan Zuckerman who looks like a redwood tree with arms. They lost. But then you still have your Georgias, your Auburns, your UNCs. But how come the Gators get beat by University of Troy? You don't think the Gators are bigger, faster, stronger? There is something to be said about transfer portal leadership and homegrown leadership. I think that is the big difference in what we're seeing this year. And I hope more of this happens. And I love West Virginia, but I would not be sad by any stretch of the means if Cal Poly won and went to the College World Series. It's sad that Little Rock has to play Troy, because I would love if they could split those guys up to give them a chance to have 4 mid-major schools in the College World Series. That would be one of the most incredible things I'd ever seen in my baseball viewership life. So these are my predictions. That's how I feel about the whole mess of the situation. I think we are in the best time college baseball has ever had, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. See you later, guys.